Good evening and welcome to Falcon Times. Tonight's top story comes from Washington, where President Donald Trump has once again sparked international debate with a strong statement directed at India. In a post on Truth Social, the president described trade ties between the United States and India as, quote, a totally one-sided disaster. His comments came just after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned from China, where he attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, a gathering that included China, Russia, and several Central Asian nations. The president claimed that India had even offered to cut its tariffs on American imports to zero. However, he added that this offer was coming too late and that it should have been done years ago. Trump did not specify when this supposed offer was made, leaving observers to speculate whether it happened in recent months or during earlier negotiations. Regardless, the statement has once again placed a spotlight on the complex and often tense economic relationship between Washington and New Delhi. The U.S.-India trade relationship has grown rapidly over the years, crossing nearly $200 billion in recent trade figures. Despite this growth, disagreements over tariffs have remained a recurring flashpoint. India has long maintained some of the world's highest tariff rates among major economies, averaging around 15% according to global trade monitors, compared with just over 2% in the United States. The president has repeatedly pointed to this gap as evidence of unfair treatment toward American businesses, using examples such as Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which once faced import duties of up to 100% when entering the Indian market. India, however, has often defended these policies, arguing that protective tariffs are necessary to safeguard the livelihoods of its farmers and small manufacturers. Indian officials highlight the fact that millions of families depend on agriculture and small industry, sectors that could be vulnerable if the market were suddenly opened up to foreign competition. For Washington, though, the imbalance is seen as unsustainable. American farmers, manufacturers, and service providers often find the Indian market difficult to penetrate, while Indian companies in areas like technology and pharmaceuticals enjoy significant access to the United States. The timing of President Trump's remarks is especially noteworthy. Prime Minister Modi's trip to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit showcased India's ongoing strategy of balancing its international relationships. At the summit, leaders discussed security cooperation, energy development, and economic partnerships across Eurasia. India's visible participation alongside China and Russia reflects its desire to remain an independent player on the world stage, not fully aligned with any single bloc. For Washington, however, such moves can raise questions, especially at a time when tensions with Beijing remain high. The president's criticism may therefore not only be about tariffs but also about signaling unease with India's outreach to China and Russia. Trump has long made trade fairness a central theme of his political platform. By once again highlighting the imbalance with India, he is reinforcing his image as a defender of American workers and businesses. His language, calling the relationship a disaster, speaks directly to voters in industrial and agricultural regions who feel disadvantaged by global trade rules. These statements also remind allies and rivals alike that under his leadership, the United States expects reciprocity in trade deals. For India, the remarks create both diplomatic and economic challenges. On one hand, New Delhi deeply values its relationship with Washington, especially in defense cooperation, technology partnerships, and people-to-people ties. The United States is one of India's largest trading partners and a crucial destination for Indian exports. On the other hand, India continues to maintain strong relationships with Russia and growing engagement with China through platforms like the SCO. This balancing act is part of India's long-standing foreign policy tradition of strategic autonomy. At this point, the Indian government has not issued an official response to Trump's latest comments. Historically, Indian officials prefer to avoid direct confrontation with U.S. leaders in public statements, instead opting for behind-the-scenes discussions. But the silence should not be mistaken for indifference. Trade negotiations between the two countries have often been tough, with disagreements not only over tariffs but also over digital policies, agricultural imports, and immigration rules for high-skilled workers. Observers believe that if Trump continues to emphasize trade fairness in his agenda, India may face renewed pressure to lower barriers for American goods. The prospect of zero tariffs, if seriously considered, would be a radical change for India's trade policy and could reshape the entire economic relationship between the two democracies. The challenge for Indian leaders will be finding a compromise that satisfies U.S. concerns while protecting domestic industries that remain politically sensitive. What makes the situation more complex is that both countries see each other as vital strategic partners, particularly in countering China's rise in Asia. Military cooperation, intelligence sharing, and joint exercises have expanded significantly in recent years. Yet the president's remarks remind us that even strong partnerships can be tested when economic interests clash. The central question now is whether this latest round of criticism will evolve into actual policy changes or remain political rhetoric aimed at sending a message both at home and abroad. For the global audience, the story reflects a larger theme of the 21st century, the tension between globalization and national interests. The United States continues to push for more equitable trade, while countries like India balance between opening markets and protecting domestic industries. Meanwhile, geopolitical alignments shift as leaders attend summits in China one day and negotiate defense deals with Washington the next. In such a dynamic environment, comments from the U.S. President carry weight far beyond tariffs alone. They signal how Washington views its partners and what it expects in return. To recap, President Trump has sharply criticized the U.S.-India trade relationship, calling it a one-sided disaster. He claims India offered to cut tariffs to zero but insists the move comes too late. The remarks followed Prime Minister Modi's visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. While India has not responded officially, the statement underscores the ongoing friction between the two nations over trade policy, even as they cooperate closely in other areas. This story will continue to develop as both Washington and New Delhi weigh their next steps. We'll be following all updates closely and bringing you the latest analysis. Stay with Falcon Times for more on this and other breaking international developments. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our in-depth coverage of the world's most important stories.